Dr. Paul, how's the campaign going?
How's the campaign going? Unbelievably well. I mean, people might want to hear the truth on occasion.
Yeah, they might. You actually do bring up the truth. I have enjoyed watching you during the debates. You certainly say it like it is. And you are raising unbelievable amounts of money. And every time we say your name, sir, we get like hundreds of emails from the Paulaholics on the Internet.
And you will this morning, too.
Oh, yes,
Dr.
we will.
Paul, I gave you some credit yesterday morning. In addition to what I said about your comments about Lincoln, I gave you some credit because I said you represent the voices of a lot of Republicans who feel that they don't have a voice in the Republican Party when it comes to positions against the war, when it comes to positions on the IRS. But again, I think the issue that I think a lot of Republicans had, and certainly a lot of people here on this show had yesterday morning, was that when you're talking about somebody as revered as Abraham Lincoln, there you sort of get into sort of a danger zone if you're going against the most revered president of the United States.
You can't live in denial. I mean, you can't live in denial about Woodrow Wilson either, for that matter. We were taught throughout all these years that Woodrow Wilson was our greatest president. And if you study and understand Woodrow Wilson, you'll know a lot of the kind of messes that we're in today because of this making the world safe for democracy. He was the first neoconservative. But you can't deny history and truth and put your head in the sand.
Well, when you talk about certain presidents in a way that causes a debate like here, let's talk about the current president then, Dr. Paul, because I know Governor Huckabee certainly got a good deal of criticism for talking about the Bush administration being arrogant and having a bunker mentality. How would you characterize the way this administration has conducted this present war?
Very poorly, but I'm essentially running on George Bush's foreign policy of the year 2000. You know, no nation building, a humble foreign policy, no policing of the world. I would say, I have an alliance with him when he ran for the presidency. So I don't come down hard on the president. I come down hard on the policy, what's happened in the last 100 years. I come down very hard on the Congress for not facing up to its responsibilities and keeping the president from going to war. If they would have assumed the responsibility, don't go to war unless you declare it. So there's a lot of blame to go along. So I don't think it's a mismanaged war, because I don't think anybody can manage a war like we have today, because we shouldn't be there. It is somebody just can't get in there and start managing it better. We have to understand that it was a serious mistake to be there. If we don't change our way, it's going to be an impossible solution. It's getting worse over there. Afghanistan's getting worse. Turkey's bombing Iraq, and Pakistan is blowing up, and we're getting ready to bomb Iran. A bunch of those neocons wants to bomb Iran.
Well,
I'm sorry. I guess I missed that, Dr. Paul, because the latest national intelligence estimate concluded that, in fact, Iran had stopped its nuclear weapons program. I think even President Bush said so a couple weeks ago, and that seemed to take the Iran option off the table.
No, wait. That didn't stop them from going into Iraq. They knew Iraq didn't have one. Besides, it's the Iranian...
Well, wait a second. Just to be clear, so you're saying despite the national intelligence estimate, despite what the president said about Iran, despite the conclusion of this government that Iran is not a nuclear threat, you believe that we are still headed into Iran. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I think it's a great possibility. Read Seymour Hersh. He's the expert over there, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard now has been declared a terrorist organization for the purpose of them being the target rather than the nuclear power plants. So wait and see. I hope and pray you're right, and that's what I'm trying to stop. But I can tell you for sure that when you find out what the people are thinking, there are still quite a few neoconservatives that want to go after Iran under these unbelievable conditions. That's the absurdity of the whole mess we have in there, and that's why the advice was very good.
Well,
stay out of entangling alliances. Stay out of nation building. We ought to just get out of that place.
There are lots of neoconservatives who say that we ought to go and bomb Iran, though I don't know where we would bomb them in any case.
Well, you're right.
No matter what, we don't have any targets there that we know anymore. So there's no. But I wouldn't rely for that on Seymour Hersh. You should only believe about half of what he says. The fact of the matter is, David is right. When the National Intelligence Estimate publicly says there isn't a target there, it's very difficult to carry out an attack. And I don't think that the military establishment is prepared to do
yes,
that.
and let's be very thankful for that Cheney didn't have total control of the CIA this go around.
Yeah. Well, one thing you are right about at this point, when you talk about the situation globally, and I'm not sure I completely disagree with you pertaining to Iran, but Pakistan, we have some breaking news this morning. A suicide bomber struck right after opposition leader Benazir Bhutto was addressing a rally. At least 20 are dead, many wounded. She had left when the explosion went off. So certainly your point about Pakistan made all the more clear with the breaking news this morning. Now, Dr. Paul, you're headed to Iowa today. What are your plans on the campaign trail?
I'll be flying out here to Iowa shortly.
You'll be heading to Iowa shortly. Okay, good.
What are you going to do
about
today?
the IRS? We haven't spoken about the IRS. I want to talk about those guys.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the IRS? I think everybody else feels the same.
I really don't think we need that.
Have you been? Are you going to get audited now? I mean, you've been campaigning against the IRS for some time.
I wouldn't be too surprised.
I wouldn't.
No, that's a form of terrorism. That's real terrorism when the IRS knocks on your door.
Hey, Dr. Paul, what are you going to do today in Iowa? What's a typical day in Iowa for Dr. Ron Paul?
There'll be mostly media events, newspapers and televisions and radios and rallies.
Is there a particular town in Iowa that you've been to that you like, or people there that you've met that have inspired you in some fashion?
I think it's all been friendly, but I've been in Des Moines more than any other place because that's where I usually lay.
Have you been, say, to Newton, Iowa?
Newton, no, I have to admit, I have not.
Okay. Newton, Iowa is where the Maytag factory closed. A lot of Iowans lost their job. It's been a pretty prominent story in Iowa. What do you say to those who suggest that you have been essentially using the free media in places like Des Moines, but that you haven't been conducting this sort of grassroots, going door to door, meeting the people like the folks in Newton, Iowa, to get a real sense for the economic problems they have?
Well,
how do you respond to that?
You can't imply that I don't do that. I also, try to make as many votes as I can. I travel a lot, and I do my very best, but there's a limit to what I can do. I can't be in every single town, every single home. I mean, where are you going to draw the line?
Well, Dr. Paul, I have to tell you, after 2 weeks in Iowa, I saw your yard signs all over the place in some pretty rural areas, so you certainly have your supporters. We appreciate you coming on, even when we disagree with you and you disagree with us. You're always a gentleman to come on and discuss it.
I tell you what, I have found the people are starved for truth, and I hope I can deliver a bit of it.
There you go. Dr. Paul, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you.
Well, he was, he knew that you were going to take him on.
He gave a little bit.
He's completely and totally wrong about Abraham Lincoln. There's absolutely no doubt about it. He's completely wrong.
What's coming up, David?
What is coming up?
I don't know.
Let's see. We're going to have more of Morning Joe after this. We have some fun stories to talk about.
I think there's a Paris Hilton story in the news. I'll let you talk about that. We're going to have the top stories coming up at the top of the hour, and I believe after that, Aaron Burnett and the latest on the breaking news out of Pakistan. Stay with us.